Job chapter 5. But call, if anyone will hearken to thee, or if thou shalt see any of the holy angels. For wrath destroys the foolish one, and envy slays him that has gone astray. And I have seen foolish ones taking root, but suddenly their habitation was devoured. Let their children be far from safety, and let them be crushed at the doors of vile men, and let there be no deliverer. For what they have collected, the just shall eat, but they shall not be delivered out of calamities. Let their strength be utterly exhausted. For labor cannot by any means come out of the earth, nor shall trouble spring out of the mountains. Yet man is born to labor, and even so the vulture's young seek the high places. Nevertheless, I will beseech the Lord, and will call upon the Lord, the sovereign of all, who does great things and untraceable, glorious things also, and marvelous, of which there is no number, who gives rain upon the earth, sending water on the earth, who exalts the lowly and raises up them that are lost, frustrating the counsels of the crafty, and their hands shall not perform the truth, who takes the wise in their wisdom, and subverts the counsel of the crafty. In the day darkness shall come upon them, and let them grope in the noonday, even as in the night. And let them perish in war, and let the weak escape from the hand of the mighty. And let the weak have hope, but the mouth of the unjust be stopped. But blessed is the man whom the Lord has reproved, and reject not thou the chastening of the Almighty. For he causes a man to be in pain, and restores him again. He smites, and his hands heal. 6 times he shall deliver thee out of distresses, and in the 7th harm shall not touch thee. In famine he shall deliver thee from death, and in war he shall free thee from the power of the sword. He shall hide thee from the scourge of the tongue, and thou shalt not be afraid of coming evils. Thou shalt laugh at the unrighteous and the lawless, and thou shalt not be afraid of wild beasts. For the wild beasts of the field shall be at peace with thee. Then shalt thou know that thy house shall be at peace, and the provision for thy tabernacle shall not fail. And thou shalt know that thy seed shall be abundant, and thy children shall be like the herbage of the field. And thou shalt come to the grave like ripe corn reaped in its season, or as a heap of the cornflower collected in proper time. Behold, we have thus sought out these matters. These are what we have heard, but do thou reflect with thyself, if thou hast done anything wrong. Shalom Aleichem, Assalamu Alaikum. Welcome to Job chapter 5, in which there are 27 verses. Beginning in verse 1, it says, "Call if anyone will hearken to thee," so listen to you, hear you out, versus answer you, so 2 different verbs, one listening, one speaking. Verse 1, continuing, significant difference, it says, "See any of the holy angels." So these are the angels of Hashem versus which of the saints will you turn to? So I think you can tell the difference there. It's pretty self-evident. I'm not going to explain that. Verse 2. Okay, what is a saint? That's a believer. A believer in Hashem. That's what a saint is. Verse 2. Gone astray versus the silly, deceived one. So those who have left the path versus the silly one, someone who is comedic, silly, immature. I'm not sure how to. It says open. Let's look at the word here. Simple, enticed, persuaded, deceived. So it's right there in brackets, the deceived one. Verse 3. Devoured. Suddenly their habitation was devoured versus I cursed. So who is cursing it? It's being cursed versus being devoured by, we don't know who, but being devoured, eaten up, or consumed. Verse 4. This is future versus past. But once again, I have to reiterate every time verbs in the original text, whether we're looking at the Hebrew or the Greek, they are not conjugated. So it's up to the translator, the reader, to discern, is this future, is this past, or is it present? And that opens the door for many possibilities. Prophecy, for instance. In verse 4, continuing on, it says, the doors of vile men. These are men of ill repute versus the gate. So these are the doors belonging to vile men, men of bad reputation, versus just the gate. So no men mentioned in the Masoretic. In verse 5, the just versus the hungry. The just shall eat versus the hungry. So these are those who are justified, those righteous perhaps, but they shall not be delivered out of their calamities. Verses, and it takes it even out of the thorns. So one is talking about being saved. The other one is talking about how the hungry will take out whatever they eat from thorns. Okay, that very two different narratives there. You could say significant difference perhaps. Let their strength be utterly exhausted versus and the robber swallows up their substance. So talking about their strength being waned, being drained, versus their substance, whatever they own, their material possessions being seized, being stolen. Verse 6, labor. This could mean something else. Versus affliction. And it could mean affliction. That's another possibility. Mountains versus ground. Verse 7, labor versus trouble. And the Hebrew word for trouble is amal, which could mean trouble, could mean toil, could also mean labor. So it depends on your interpretation. It could mean man is born to trouble, man is born to labor. It could apply to either one. The vulture's young versus sparks. So an animal, a bird of prey versus sparks. Verse 8, call upon Hashem versus commit my cause to Hashem. So giving it over to him versus calling on his name, seeking his help, invoking his name. You can invoke the name of many Elohim, but if you invoke his name, then you will be helped. Verse 9, untraceable versus unsearchable. Pretty similar there. I'm going to just ignore that. Untraceable could also mean that you can't find where it's coming from. Unsearchable means you cannot find it at all. Okay. Verse 11, raises up them that are lost, versus those which mourn may be exalted to safety. Okay, so he's raising up them that are lost, so they're not dead yet. Raising them up, so exalting them. That's a mysterious saying. Those which mourn may be exalted to safety. Okay. So it seems that they're both being exalted, but one is mourning, one is lost. Verse 12, counsels versus devices. Could be the same thing. The truth shall not perform the truth versus their enterprise. So the truth is from Hashem versus their enterprise, which is whatever they want to do, whatever they want to achieve. Verse 13, subverts versus carries headlong. We have our first potential big difference in the chapter. In verse 15, it reads, let them perish in war, and let the weak escape from the hand of the mighty. It says, but he saves the poor from the sword. So it's talking about those who are dying from war. Who's dying in the war? He exalts the lowly. It talks about crafty, the wise. So this is talking about the crafty, the subtle, the cunning. Let the crafty perish in war, but let the weak escape from the hand of the mighty. In the Masoretic, it's talking about the poor being saved from the sword. No mention of the crafty, or there's no implication that it's talking about the crafty. But this is a continuation of verse 13 in the Septuagint. And then it says, there's an addition of from their mouth. He saves the poor from the sword. From their mouth could be the crafty, and from the hand of the mighty. So the Septuagint is saying, let the weak escape. So they're going to escape on their own, but they're going to be saved in the Masoretic. Verse 16, significant difference. It reads, the mouth of the unjust be stopped, versus and iniquity stopped her mouth. So let the mouth of the unjust be stopped, so that they will no longer speak, or may no longer eat, perhaps. Versus the poor has hope, and iniquity stops her mouth. So whose mouth is it referring to? The poor? So if the poor have hope, but then if they have sin, then that stops their mouth. I guess that makes a little sense, but I don't know where that's going. It seems to be punishing the poor. But clearly in the Septuagint, it's not referring to the poor. It's talking about the unrighteous, the unjust. Let their mouths be stopped. Whether it's talking about eating or speaking, we're not sure. Because in times of war, what usually happens? Famine. But if we're taking it the other way, that the unjust no longer speak, they will not persecute the poor. Verse 17, significant difference here. It says, reject not thou the chastening of the Almighty, versus despise not. So don't reject his chastising, but accept it, rather. Here it's saying don't hate it. Okay, like it. Like his chastening. No, it's not talking about be a sadist. That's not what it's referring to. The Septuagint is giving us the correct interpretation. Do not reject his chastening because it's for your good. That's why you should accept it and understand that it's meant for your good. In verse 18, he causes a man to be in pain. This could be emotional pain, could be physical pain. But in the Masoretic, make sore seems to be more physical pain rather than emotional. Verse 21, coming evils, you shall not be afraid of those, versus destruction. Verse 22, significant difference. Unrighteous versus destruction and famine. And it actually says lawless. So these are two types of people. The unrighteous people, so the wicked, and the lawless, those who don't obey the law or without law, perhaps, versus destruction and famine. So two kind of concepts, not personifying or identifying a people group or a type of people based on their character, but just in general, no destruction. Famine, when they come, you're gonna laugh at them. That's what's going to happen. You're just gonna laugh. Wild beasts versus beasts of the earth. So this is talking about those that live in the wilderness, those who are not domesticated, not agricultural animals, versus beasts of the earth could include all types of animals. Verse 23, significant difference. There's an addition of you shall be in league with the stones of the field. Okay. Verse 24, talking about a house. Shall be at peace versus tabernacle. So essentially they mean the same thing, but a house could mean your household, not just keep bringing that up. Okay, not simply your physical house, the building itself. It's talking about, perhaps be open to the interpretation of like House of David. It's the family, so your family name, your household, that includes your children, your wife, etc. Those under your roof. So that makes more sense in my opinion. Interpreting it that way. Big difference. It says the provision shall not fail. You won't run out of food or supplies that are needed. Versus you shall not sin, or your tabernacle shall not sin. Wow, that is a lofty ambition. It's a lofty standard. Don't sin. They won't sin at all. No, it's not talking about that they won't sin, saying whatever you need, talking about provisions, bread, food, water, they will not fail. You're going to have enough to keep going, and you'll be provided for by Hashem. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I keep bringing that up. It's the third time now. Hopefully it's the last time. And finally, in the same verse, it says, for the footnote of fail, shall not fail. In the Greek, it's err. Your tabernacle shall not make a mistake. So it could be taken as sin, but that is very specific to breaking the Torah. But shall not err could mean different things. So let's look at this word for sin. It is hata, to miss, to bear loss. So it could be losing, to miss oneself, to lose oneself, to wander from the way. So to wander. But the Septuagint rendered it as fail. Shall not fail. Okay. That's one to ponder. Verse 25, we're ignoring that. Verse 26, the grave. You shall come to the grave. So going to sleep and then being buried. Versus thy grave. You shall come to thy grave in full age. Okay, why does that matter? I don't really know, but you shall come to the end of your life just like ripe barley. So it's not corn, it's barley, because that is a Middle Eastern crop. Corn is a North American crop. It does not exist in the Middle East, at that time anyway. You shall come to the grave like ripe corn. So at the end of your life, you're going to be like ripe corn that is reaped in its season, or as a heap of the corn flour collected in proper time, versus you shall come to the grave in a full age. Oh, to thy grave. So that's added thy. Okay, it's not a big difference. We'll just move on. Verse 27, I believe it's the last verse. Reflect with thyself if thou hast done anything wrong. So this verse in the Septuagint, this contradicts the false accusation that Job did sin. He sinned and he deserves his plight. So he did a sin that warranted what he is going through. But this verse clearly contradicts it. Let's just read it slowly. Reflect with thyself, Job, if thou hast done anything wrong. Because he's not concluding he did something wrong. He's saying, well, you reflect on it. See if you've done anything wrong. But I think in the previous chapter, Eliphaz stated, you're lying, Job, basically, if you were telling the truth. None of these bad things would have happened to you. In the Masoretic, it says, know thou, you know it for thy good. Oh, know that this is for your good. So lo, this, look at this, we have searched it. So Eliphaz is saying, we have searched this matter, and so it is. Hear it. Hear what we're saying, and just know that what we're saying is for your good. So is that contradictory perhaps? I'm not sure. No, okay, so no, it is for thy good. It could be referring to his words. Listen to my advice, it's for your good, or it could be referring to the consequences. What he's suffering is for your good. It could be interpreted in those two different ways. But it is clear in the Masoretic that Eliphaz is more accusatory. He's coming to conclusions, jumping to conclusions that Job is guilty. And he's coming from a place of looking down on Job and saying, look, Job, we know why you're going through this. We know what you did, and we know that you deserve this, so we know better, essentially. But in the Septuagint, it's saying, we search this matter, and this is what we have heard, but you reflect with thyself. So he's giving him a chance to think about it, meditate on it, and examine, see if you have done anything wrong. See if you're to blame. That's a little more fair, in my opinion. So that's all for this chapter. Thank you very much for your time. Till next time, I bid you all shalom aleichem, assalamu alaikum, irini mazisu, pax vobiscum. Peace be unto you. Shabbat shalom and Maranatha.